Welcome back. We're live on the air. Don't curse.
Damn it. How's it going today, Win?
Good. Good,
Good.
good,
Well,
good. Just
I'm
coming off
glad
a
you get
fun little weekend. Yeah.
I'm glad you get to hang out with me today.
Looking forward to it.
What's been on your mind lately? Been thinking business wise.
Always a bunch of fun stuff going on. Um, in my world, it's feels like it's trying to get ahead of the recruiting. Always. Um, Trying to keep our pipeline full
How do you
of new talent.
maintain your recruiting pipeline? Do you hire somebody? Do you go out there and network? Like what do you find is the most effective way to recruit? Not because you've probably dealt with recruiters and
Yeah.
headhunters and whatnot, and it's they've just given you this bland person that on paper checks a box, and I feel like they hardly ever work out.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I would say your first question: how do we keep it full? Sort of all the above. I mean, um, there's specific like school, which is like a little training for what we do. Like we try to recruit out of there, but everywhere's got their pros and cons. Word of mouth and friends are a good place. Obviously, all the recruiters, um, we're pretty big into athletes, and so like I've gone so far as to like reach out to different universities' athletic departments
Okay.
for graduating seniors. So stuff like that. I'd say any and all ways you can get. I mean, obviously it depends on what you're looking for. But yeah, I actually just met with a recruiter last night, and it's sort of the same kind of thing. It was you have to be very specific in what you want and what you're looking
Hmm.
for, or else it does become a complete waste of time.
Right, right.
Um, you can.
Are you
It,
finding are you finding most of the recruiters that you're engaging now require you to pay a fee as opposed like upfront, like a search fee versus because I'm in the
a
process
placement
of
fee.
well, not even the placement fee has always been there, right? It's always been
Yeah, yeah.
a percentage of the first year's annual salary kind of thing. But I'm in the process of um, doing a search for an new executive director for the nonprofit
Yeah,
board that
yeah.
I sit on, and I haven't gone into this realm lately, but as I start to dip my toe in it, they're saying expect $30,000 to $50,000 up front, like for the search. And I'm like, wow, that market has changed.
Why up front?
I guess because of the labor market. I don't know. I mean, I would have thought it would have gone the opposite with more people looking for work versus
Yeah.
I guess what you see as a trend from a generational standpoint is people don't want to work as much or as hard or on site as our generation. This new generation coming through, or so
Yeah.
they want to be influencers and sit at home and make TikTok videos.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, but nobody wants to watch you.
Well, this is true. This is true. Yeah, it's funny. I knew that was going on, but I didn't put two and two together. Where I realized you were in charge of that search. I've got after the after the show here. I got a couple guys for you.
Okay.
I think I would push back on anybody trying to charge me up front. Like, no, I'll pay you if
Yeah,
you place someone. Like, I'm not paying you up front for something you might do.
yeah, and I don't know if it's a
That's not the
not,
way it
I
works.
don't know if it's a nonprofit industry thing or because it's harder to find experienced executive directors,
It
that have
seems
dealt
ridiculous.
in multi-million dollar budgets, but I don't know. We'll find out.
I would assume there's a return if they don't place somebody,
I would hope so. I haven't
right?
signed any contracts. This is just what I'm hearing. I don't know if there's any validity to it.
Yeah.
I'll obviously
Um,
do my due diligence I'm not, and I'm as the president of the board, outgoing president of the board. Um, I'm responsible. I took the initiative to establish a search committee. This wasn't something that somebody said, "All right,
Yeah,
Drew, well, you got to do this now." I just,
yeah.
again, leadership
That's because you felt
requires,
guilty for losing everybody.
but had nothing to do. These were all life. These are all life events. I had nothing to do with with
It's
any
the
of that.
least you could do. Yes, for
um,
firing
but
everyone. Yes, go
got to
for it.
step up. Somebody's got to step up. So
Yeah,
as president, I stepped up.
yeah. This wasn't our planned topic or anything we discussed earlier, but it does have me thinking. One thing that I got very specific on as far as hiring goes is, and it sort of goes to more of your situation, is know exactly what you're looking for before you start looking for it. I think it
That's true.
it seems very obvious, but it is also very easy to know you need someone. Start thumbing through resumes, however you get them. Like,
Mhm.
oh, you know what, this guy would be great, and then you start trying to fit square pegs in round holes. It's
Yep.
like they're great people, and they're probably great employees. There's not exactly what you need for the moment,
Right. Right. Right.
which is very different,
Yeah.
right? So you gotta really pull the reins back on yourself and force yourself to clearly define exactly what it is that you need and what qualities, what like extra benefits you would like out of each employee in a perfect world, and then go find that. It's a
That
little,
that's
yeah,
extremely important in, this nonprofit organization. This is a volunteer position for me. This isn't my full-time
yeah,
gig. But it's a roll your sleeves up, and get in the mix. Not just It's not a CV builder, where you're just a bunch of empty suits sitting around the table. And it's extremely that approach is the exact approach we're taking. And I'm a scenario guy, right? So my analytical brain, like I'm going to plan like worst based best case scenarios, right?
mm-hmm,
And what are our options? Best case scenario looks like this, then worst case and our expected trajectory looks like this. And then you have a different plan so you can pivot as your needs change or as things evolve. But the biggest thing is not to rush into just putting somebody in the seat, because especially in a nonprofit, you've got to there's a lot of focus on culture, on mission, um, and ensuring that you have the person, cultivating this culture. um, Over the past 7 years that I've been involved in this organization, it looks a lot different than it did when I started,
right.
in a positive way. Um, we're serving
Oh,
more
thanks for
people.
clarifying that.
We're serving more people. We're making a bigger impact. The community's supporting us more. So it's important to keep that momentum going, and that's all. A lot of that is driven by the leadership of the organization, and to quell the concerns of any of the staff members, right? The change in leadership, is kind of nerve wracking,
Sure.
to the other people. Is like, oh, are they going to clean house, or is a new person going to clean house? Are they going to have the same, ideals and you know mission focused and um, you know client focused mindset that the predecessor had, and all those things make a difference. And being able to communicate that effectively to the people who are waiting, during this transition period, I think is a tremendously important element that a lot of times people overlook. Whether it's nonprofit or for-profit businesses, if your CEO or one of your C-suite executives leaves, and let's say it's in an instance like this where it was just life events, right? Things that came up in people's lives that are like,
Right.
I really don't want to leave, but this is like an opportunity I can't say no to, or my family situation's changed, or whatever the case may be.
Sure.
Still, the mindset from either the public or the internal employees are going to be like, well, what's going on?
Right.
Something going on? Like, why is this guy leaving?
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so being able to sort of quash those fears that, the house is on fire, like, hey, this is just a life event. Here's our plan. This is what we're doing. We're not doing this in a vacuum. You guys are going to meet the potential new candidates. Some of your key leadership um, people that remain in the organization will have a say.
Hmm.
Um, they're not necessarily the final say, but it's not somebody that we're going to plop into a seat and say, "All right, here's your new boss.
Yeah.
Have fun."
Like it or not, here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but it's
It's
always
fun.
interesting to see how people respond. A lot of it is panic, like who's going to do this, who's going to do that, and
Yeah.
it's like pump the brakes. Like this organization isn't. No organization should ever be built upon one person, so that if one person leaves, the organization collapses.
Yeah.
You've done a terrible job in setting up your organization.
Are you going to let me interview this new fella?
No, absolutely not. Because we want to hire somebody. We don't want to run people off.
I thought I'd try.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it.
I
It's
know
fun.
you would. I know you
So,
would.
yeah, yeah. Uh, speaking of, uh, sort of your situation, but different. It's like Larry the Cable Guy. My girlfriend looks just like Michelle Pfeiffer, except she's a little shorter and her face is different.
Yep.
Uh, how do you know when it's time to sort of change course or shut down shop in business? What are your key indicators or key things you look at when you know things aren't going well?
Yeah, I
And I
mean,
guess the baked into this question is obviously like when you're not making money.
right.
That's part of it. But like, what are the other things you're looking at?
Let's see. From my perspective, it's not completely different. I don't think from your perspective, but mine is a lot more analytical based. And so
Yeah.
I'm not only am I going to look at your key performance metrics, right, your KPIs um, for the different ways that you evaluate different product lines that you have, but also like forecasting. I'm not a big budget guy, so I don't because it's historical, right? I can hire a bookkeeper who can do a budget and do backwards looking analysis that just says how we did compared to what we thought we were going to do, which doesn't take into account any kind of externalities or unknowns that could have come up during the year. Like you look at somebody who created a budget during COVID, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't worth the paper that it was written on. So what's
Right.
the point of doing a backwards looking evaluation? I'm looking out. I like the rolling forecast approach, right? I'm gonna continuously update. You know, I think monthly is probably too much because you don't really get a lot of the. There's a lot of lag in terms of what happens, in the market, and you need some
Right.
time to absorb that and see how that's really going to impact your performance. So, but in
Right.
that, I want to look at what is the market doing? Like, where is it going? Is this a product that is on the decline because the demand is decreasing, and
Mm-hmm.
therefore, or there's a substitute, there's a new and better version that I need to say, all right, I'm going to put this down and go pursue this so that I can stay innovative, right?
Right.
If you,
Right.
if you just sit there and you're just selling the same widget, you know, now if we're talking, sliced bread, right? There's not a ton of difference, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but if you're in a new business, whether you're selling sporting goods, if you're still selling bats from the 1980s, right?
Right.
You're not going to have many travel team baseball players
Got to
coming
make a
through
market.
buying your stuff.
Got to make a market.
So I
Vintage
think
bats. I
the
like
the
it.
bi- the biggest thing is to me is having your eyes forward, looking at what's coming. Like what am I going to how am I projecting um,
Yeah.
to that will drive whether you pivot or not. So is that
Yeah.
I imagine it's not completely different than you, but there might be other elements that you look at to make
No,
that
I mean you're
transition.
exactly right. Which this is why you and I work well together because um, this that is the kind of stuff you look at and like I guess what I would say, like I said, baked into the question is the numbers are the numbers. If it was always that easy of, if I'm making money, I'm going to keep going this direction. If I'm not making money, I'm going to pivot some way, somehow. Like
Hmm.
it's just not that easy, surprisingly enough. I mean, there's a lot of guesswork. It's more of an art than a science in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
which is why we have Vertex, right?
Right.
So, um, yeah, to me, I always my gut and it's probably personality built into this too, right? But I always tend to look at the people first. Like, does my team, does my group of people have the horsepower that it needs, the sophistication it needs to go accomplish these next goals,
Hmm.
right? And I guess sort of stepping back from the business, we've talked about this a little bit, but it's top line growth versus bottom line growth. Maximizing what you do have, sort of pivoting in there one way or another. It's sort of like where and how are we supposed to be growing, if
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
My rambling here, but that
Yep.
to me, it's like do we have the right teams in place? Do I have the right personnel? Do I need can I get what I need out of this team?
Well, dive a little deeper into the horsepower comment. Does your team have the horsepower? What,
Yeah,
I mean, I like the phrase, and I know what it means, and I just want to let's be clear on it because I think it's important.
yeah. I mean, uh, in my mind, it's always easiest to explain sales, but I can look at it. I can look at any of my teams. If there's 20 guys out there, you know, is it realistic for them to have $10 million in sales in a year, or is it not? Like, do I not have any of those horses
Hmm.
on these teams where they're actually going to be able to get new business? And that's really to me in the medical world. There are very few guys left that like actually can go get new business. Most folks are basically service oriented, and they don't want to hear that. Like everybody wants to be the sales guy,
Right.
but um, you're only a sales guy if you can sell.
That is a kind of a big element there.
One of my favorite lines ever is after a pass ball. Oof. They call you the catcher. You should catch it. Yeah, from the entertaining coach. But yes, it's do they actually have the ability to do what we're asking them to do?
Yeah. And so in terms of direction, when you say, let's say that you're looking at something, you touched on, does my team have the capacity, the
Yeah.
ability to pursue this? So let's say that, in that evaluation, right, you as leadership in your organization, you're driving the ship, right? You're saying, all right, we're going to pursue this. You're not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily boots on the ground selling it. You can assist, but you're not the guy that's out there knocking on doors, trying to pick up new customers, whatever the case may be.
Depends on the day, but
But
yes, I hear you.
yeah, but so trying to determine, I kind of picture it in my mind as like, all right, we're driving along, cruising down the road, and in the distance, I see some mountains, right? Like,
Yep.
do we have enough? And that mountain is a new product launch. Do I have the right people that can help us get this Fred Flintstone, style car up that
Right.
mountain?
Yeah.
And if not, do we, do I not pursue that new line, or do I
Upgrade
look
my team.
to, yeah, upgrade the team?
Yeah. All great questions. Obviously, very situational.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I think all I'm trying to do is give people an idea of, we sit here and we talk a lot about our philosophy, the way that we approach things and ideas, but if somebody wants to walk away, from this session listening to, with a checklist, right?
yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
want to evaluate my team. What kind of things do I need to look at? That's sort of what angle I'm trying to give them.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And I assumed our answers would be a little bit different just based on like the way both of us think, each of us think. But you like to get into the analytics and turn inward. I sort of like to look outward, and look at personnel and personalities and skill sets. So again, I think the point of the question was, how much is so obvious and how much is not, and I feel like most of the time it's just not that obvious
Hmm.
and what the right answers are.
Do you think it's not obvious because people get so wrapped up into the day to day? They, that the slippery slope of working in your business instead of working on your business.
I think that's definitely part of it. I think it always just comes back to people in my mind, right? And for you, it's always, I feel sure you're just going to be like the data shows you, right?
Well, yeah,
And they're both
I
true.
don't. They're
Both of
not
those
mutually
statements are true.
exclusive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course, neither of us are. But I think that's what's funny. But I do think I do think there's personality traits of CEOs that show themselves one way or another, and some guys are overly optimistic. Some guys are overly analytical. Um, you were saying it before. You're just too engulfed in what you're doing to actually see what's going on to be able to step back.
Hmm.
Um, that's obviously a thing. So there's a million reasons why you may not see changes you need to be making. You may not be able to see that coming.
And I think that's another important element too to from a business owner or executive leadership standpoint that people need to consider is
Just new perspective.
yeah, if you don't
Yeah.
think you're actually like, oh no, I get everything, but your performance still isn't where it could be, that's
Yeah.
when an outside consultant makes sense, and I tell people to be very careful when it comes to looking to engage, for a an operations consultant, or however they want to build themselves, um, because there are a lot of them out there, and a lot
Yeah.
of them are just cookie cutter. Here's a playbook, and I don't care what industry it is, fill this out, and this is how you evaluate it. Versus, you know, somebody like us, like Vertex, that takes that approach of understanding the client. Like the first thing
Yeah. Yeah.
the first thing we're doing when we get in there is I want to learn everything I can about your business. I'm not trying to copy your business. I don't have the capacity to start a new business.
Right.
But I can't help you uncover, the monsters in the closet unless I understand the ins and outs of your business. Now, I'm not going to know it as well as you are, and the guy that's in the day-to-day operations of it. But
Ever. Right.
if I don't have a genuine interest in your business, I'm not going to give you any kind of valuable insight in terms of like how you can get better. And when we
Yeah.
engage somebody,
There'd
how
be
we
nothing
can
more
get better.
beneficial than listening to this podcast. Frankly,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
should be the
Yeah.
prescription. If you know nothing about the business, this is about as good as you're going to get.
Right. Right. Um, but that to me is what I love. Like I just love business.
Yeah.
It's fun. I was I was pre-med, going in. I was it was just assumed I was going to be a doctor, and my dad was a surgeon, my mom was a nurse. I grew up in a medical
I
house,
assumed you were going to be a
field.
nurse.
I know, I know. Uh, but my brain just didn't work like that. I
No,
can't get anything done with you, man.
it was a long weekend.
Are you still drinking?
Maybe. Shut up.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and then I fell into, economics and that the study, the dismal science, and it just made sense, and I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, and it was fun, um, and so it just every, even though I went into public accounting, you know, I I wasn't, I didn't feel I was a stereotypical public accountant, stereotypical CPA, and I was on the audit side of things, so my job was going in and evaluating businesses,
Yeah.
for nearly a decade until I went into private industry. Um, but I got to go and learn about all these different, everything from SEC, manufacturing companies, all the way to, nonprofits, sort of the other side of the spectrum. Um, and a lot of things all of these businesses hold in common that can, principles that can be applied to, regardless of the scenario. But that was the fun part to me, was all right, how can I help make them better? A lot of, auditors are going to take the approach of, all right, I'm just going to review their internal controls and, ding them on this. And, what, at the end of the day, what good are you doing if you're not helping your client make them better? Like you're not an IRS auditor you know, trying to issue
Bust their
fines and
chops.
penalties. You're
Yeah.
trying to make them better in a more robust and comprehensive, you know, organization to try and eliminate all of the threats, all of the weaknesses, um, and all the holes. So
Right.
so it became natural for me to look into businesses and to want to understand how'd you start? What is this thing? Where do you want it to be?
Right.
Um, and I think that's to me that's how you make the business fun is if you're just going through the motions every day, like you said, bringing it back to, when's it time to change?
Yeah.
Um, if you wake up in the morning and you don't want to go to work, it's time to do something different,
Yeah.
right? That's not
Yeah.
like, oh, I went too hard last night, during, Monday Night Football or whatever. I don't want to get up right now. I don't want to go do my job.
Yeah.
Um, that's that's when it's time to pump the brakes and figure out, all right, is this something I can pivot to? Because then you're just going to run into burnout. You're not going to be motivated. The people around you are not going to be motivated. That becomes contagious, right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm working with you every day, and our offices are next to each other, and you come in, dragging ass and head down, like, I it becomes contagious. It's
Yeah.
not
Cancer spread.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, winning is fun, and if your gut tells you you're losing, probably probably symptom of that kind of mindset or that kind of vision.
Right, right.
Some way, somehow, you're not winning.
Yeah. And a lot of it may have to do with, you know, just freshening up the
Yeah.
ideas, right? Eliminating the monotony of whatever it is that you're doing, taking a different approach. Does everything that you do on a daily basis, does it follow a particular order, and does it have to be that way? Is there something you can do differently? Is there a way you can create more efficiencies?
Yeah.
Think outside the box. And I wouldn't say change just for the sake of change, but have a purpose for it, right? And again, a lot of that helps. It helps even having a coach, a business coach.
Yep.
If you want to call me and we'll have a weekly, catch up and say, all right, this is the way I'm feeling, almost like a business therapist. It's like what I
Right.
like to call it. And all right, when you need to put your big boy pants on and step up and deal with this issue, as opposed to, oh, poor me, why me? Quit feeling sorry for yourself. You're the leader. Go get it done.
Yep. Yeah. It's one of the easy fixes, but one of the things I always one of the first things that comes to my mind is like it's even my schedule and my life and whatnot. Like having someone help you with your scheduling. Like I'm not. You're a more natural planner than I am. Like
Hmm.
and so like I always need someone to keep me on track. So like executive assistant, like one of the first roles I think are very important in each company.
Yeah.
Depending on your personality traits, right? I know
Right.
I need it. I would say, someone like you, probably a little better. Um, I think a lot of times it comes down to the functionality of like what does your average day look like, right? I'm going around to a lot of my different customers on a daily basis, and I'm in cars and airports and traveling and hotels, all the nonsense. I don't get as much computer time.
Yeah.
A
And the
lot
fact
a
that
lot more windshield time.
you have the attention span of a gnat, and oh,
What do you say? Sorry.
there's a squirrel. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So those kind of things, efficiencies, those are the things that you need to know yourself first. and
Hmm.
figure out, you know, some things you dread doing, sub it out. Have someone else do it
Yeah.
if that's what it
That
comes down to.
that's how you build the right team, right?
Yeah,
I had a hard line, and I think it's important, depending on the stage of your business, right? If you're
of
in the
course. Yeah, yeah,
startup stage, right? Like I can't afford to hire an
yeah. No.
administrative assistant,
Yep.
to do
You
my
need to do most of
scheduling
it on
and
your own.
right. But at some point, as you continue to grow, it doesn't make sense for you to schedule, all these inspections or, get these meetings lined up. You need somebody, your time is better fit. It's kind of like that whole concept, these executive jets, right? These big corporations that have these jets. Well, the general public looks at it and goes, well, wow, what a waste of money. This is, ridiculous. Well, it's not when you think about how much time it would take for the CEO of a Fortune 500 company to get through an airport, a standard airport, through TSA and all the checkpoints and luggage and all that stuff. Their time is so much more valuable to run this huge organization that it actually is justified to get them to and from the point A to point B with as little downtime as possible so that they can get to these meetings with these investors who have limited, availability, whether it's,
Yeah.
they're looking at PE firms or, any kind of, venture capital kind of stuff that like it's action packed. It's got to be quick. People don't have time to, oh, my flight got delayed. I'll be there, tomorrow now. I hope you can push your meetings back. No, it doesn't. Just don't bother. Just go ahead and cancel.
Right. Yeah. Then you can get into like all the things you can do with a plane as far as write offs and
Yeah.
where does it land on your books.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Realized cost, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, no, there's a lot of fun ways to look at it, and understand what your passions are and what your I guess dreads are, the things you dread doing, the things you avoid,
yeah,
and just being able to manage your own personality first and foremost before you can start managing a business.
I think it's important too to attack the day. To your point, what things do you dread? What do you not want to do? Do that first.
Of
Do
course,
that the very first thing that you do that day, because if you do the hardest thing first, the rest of your day is going to be easy.
yeah, it's already out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
people would just keep kicking the can down the road, procrastinating. "Oh, I really don't feel like doing this. I've got all these other things that I can do. So you push that hard thing or that uncomfortable thing to the bottom, and you keep putting stuff in front of it,
yep.
and it just gets harder and harder, bigger and bigger.
Okay,
The problem.
squirrel. um,
Oh.
yeah, you knew what you were doing. I can't think through
I
do
gotta
stuff
start.
like that.
I think I think we gotta turn these cameras off so I can't see your reactions.
Yeah, I'm not thinking about business stuff right now.
I know. I
Nope.
noticed.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I don't know. That's exactly what I wanted to talk about. I
Well,
think you
good.
nailed it.
Yeah, I usually do that. I'm good for that. So.
Congratulations, congratulations.
Well,
Yeah,
good. Well, good. If we had a good discussion today, we will look for comments and questions and try to continue to address those on our next episode.
we're bigger and longer and stronger. Over and out.
Is that the new motto?
Maybe. See how long it lasts.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the flip side. Thanks for joining.
Later.